Have you ever walked into a room and seen something that completely shattered everything you thought you knew about yourself? I want to tell you a story today. A story that will make you question what family really means, what justice looks like, and what happens when the dead refuse to stay buried. This is the story of Maya Torres, and the day she discovered that her entire life was a lie. Picture this: Los Angeles, a warm Saturday evening in October. The kind of night where the wealthy open their mansions for charity galas and champagne flows like water. Maya Torres, 24 years old, moved through the crowd with practiced invisibility. Black vest, white shirt, a tray of crystal glasses balanced perfectly on her palm. She'd been doing this for 3 years now, serving the elite at their fancy parties. Good money, tips were decent, and most importantly, nobody really looked at her. She was just the help. But tonight was different. She was working at the Bennett estate. You know the name. Everyone in California knows the name. James Bennett, tech mogul, philanthropist, the man who'd built $1 billion empire and then turn around and pledged half of it to charity. They called him a saint. Time magazine put him on the cover. The man who gives back. Maya had served at dozens of these events. She knew the routine. Smile, nod, refill the glasses, don't make eye contact, don't exist. But then she got lost. She was looking for the service bathroom. Took a wrong turn down a hallway lined with photographs. Family photos. The kind that tell a story. James Bennett shaking hands with the mayor. James Bennett receiving an award. James Bennett with his arm around various celebrities. And then she saw it. A gold frame. Smaller than the others. Almost hidden between two larger portraits. And inside that frame, "My God," she whispered. The tray in her hands began to shake. It's me." The photo showed a little girl, maybe 4 years old, wearing a pink dress with white flowers. Curly hair pulled into 2 puffballs. A shy smile. Missing front tooth. Maya knew this photo. She'd seen it once before years ago in her social worker's file. The only photo she had from her early childhood. The only proof that she'd existed before the foster homes. Before the system swallowed her whole. But how? How was her childhood photo hanging on the wall of James Bennett's private hallway? Her heart pounded so loud she was sure someone would hear it. She leaned closer, hands trembling. There was an inscription on the frame. Small, elegant script. "My angel, forever in my heart." "Hey, what are you doing back here?" Maya spun around. A security guard stood at the end of the hallway, hand on his radio. I got lost," she stammered, "looking for the bathroom. Staff isn't allowed in this section. Go back to the main hall. Now." Maya nodded, forcing her feet to move. But she looked back one more time at that photograph. At that little girl who was her, who had somehow ended up as a decoration in a billionaire's home. Back in the main hall, everything felt surreal. The music, the laughter, the clinking of glasses. It all seemed to happen at a distance, like she was watching it through thick glass. She found herself staring at James Bennett. There he was, center of attention as always. Tailored navy suit that probably cost more than she made in 6 months. Silver hair perfectly styled. That warm, genuine smile he was famous for. He was giving a speech now. Something about his charitable foundation. About giving children second chances. As many of you know, his voice boomed through the speakers, smooth and rehearsed. "I started tomorrow's Hope Foundation after experiencing a profound personal tragedy. Losing a child, it changes you. It makes you want to protect every other child out there. To make sure no family has to feel that kind of pain." The crowd murmured sympathetically. Several women dabbed at their eyes. Maya felt sick. Losing a child? She hadn't died. She was right here, standing 10 feet away from him with a tray of champagne. Unless he'd gotten rid of her, erased her, declared her dead, and moved on with his life. Every donation you make tonight, James continued, his voice thick with emotion, goes directly to helping orphaned and abandoned children. Because I know what it's like to lose everything. And I've made it my mission to ensure that these kids don't lose hope. The applause was thunderous. Maya watched him bask in it. This man who spoke so beautifully about helping abandoned children, while her childhood photo hung in his hallway like a trophy, like a secret he kept just for himself. She needed to know the truth. The next morning, Maya couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't think about anything except that photograph. She pulled out the manila folder she kept under her bed, her foster care records, sparse, incomplete, like someone had deliberately left out the important parts. Child found wandering alone near Echo Park. Age approximately 4. No identification. Attempts to locate family unsuccessful. Placed in emergency foster care. That was it. That was her entire origin story. A mystery child who appeared out of nowhere. But now she had a clue. She called her friend Diego. He worked as a bartender at all the high-end events in L.A. If anyone knew the gossip about James Bennett, it would be Diego. Bennett. Diego's voice crackled through the phone. Maya, girl, you don't want to go digging into that man's business. He's connected. Powerful. I need to know, Diego. Please. A long sigh. All right, but this stays between us. There are rumors, old ones, about a daughter he had who just vanished. His first wife, Elena, died in a car accident about 20 years ago. After she died, Bennett came into a massive insurance payout. And the daughter? Never seen or heard from again. Some people think he sent her away. Others think worse. Maya's blood ran cold. Worse how? I'm just saying, Elena Bennett was working on something before she died. Some kind of investigation into corrupt adoption agencies. She was a child welfare advocate, really vocal about it. Then she dies suddenly. Bennett gets rich, and the daughter disappears. You do the math. Maya spent the next 2 weeks becoming obsessed. She created fake social media accounts, dug through old news articles, found obituaries, public records. Elena Bennett, born Elena Ramirez, child welfare advocate, died at age 28 in a single-car accident on Pacific Coast Highway. The accident report said brake failure. No other cars involved. Tragic, but straightforward. Except, Maya found a tiny article in a community newspaper from 20 years ago. An interview with Elena, published 2 weeks before her death. I've uncovered evidence of systematic fraud in private adoption networks. Elena had said, children are being bought and sold. Families are being torn apart for profit. I won't stop until I expose everyone involved. 2 weeks later, she was dead. Maya needed professional help. She remembered Angela Rodriguez, a retired private investigator who came into the coffee shop where Maya worked her morning shift. Maya approached her one morning, voice low. I need help. I think James Bennett might be my father, and I think he killed my mother. Angela looked up from her newspaper, studied Maya's face for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Tell me everything. Over the next month, Angela dug deep, and what she found was worse than either of them imagined. James Bennett hadn't just abandoned Maya. He'd faked her death. There was a death certificate, forged, saying that Elena's daughter had died in the same car accident. Body never recovered due to the vehicle going over a cliff into the ocean. He'd collected life insurance on both of them, nearly $1 million total. But here's the thing, Angela said, spreading documents across Maya's tiny kitchen table. Elena didn't die in the crash. She died 3 hours later at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. She was conscious when they brought her in, and before she died, she told a nurse something. Angela slid a photocopy of a hospital report across the table. Patient kept repeating, "Protect her from him. Don't let him find her. He's a monster." Maya's hand shook as she read the words. Her mother had died trying to protect her. There's more, Angela continued. I found the detective Elena hired before she died. He disappeared too. Never found. But his assistant kept copies of all his files. Elena suspected James was running an illegal adoption ring, taking children from poor families, falsifying documents, selling them to wealthy couples for huge fees. When she threatened to expose him, he killed her, and then he put you into the system under a fake identity, so you disappear into foster care maze. Maya felt tears burning her eyes. All those years, all those foster homes, the loneliness, the feeling that nobody wanted her, nobody loved her, and it was all because of him. What are you going to do? Angela asked quietly. Maya looked up. Her tears had dried. Something cold and hard had settled in her chest. I'm going to make him pay. Not just for what he did to me and my mother, for every child he's hurt, every family he's destroyed. How? Maya smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. He built his entire reputation on being the man who turned tragedy into charity. The grieving father who helps orphans because he lost his own child. What happens when everyone finds out his dead daughter's alive, and that she knows everything? Over the next 6 weeks, Maya and Angela put together an airtight case. Bank records showing the insurance payments, the forged death certificates, testimony from the hospital nurse, records from the detective's investigation into the adoption fraud, everything they needed to destroy James Bennett. The question was how to expose him. It had to be public, dramatic, undeniable. And then Maya saw the announcement. The Tomorrow's Hope Foundation Annual Gala. The biggest charity event of the year. James Bennett's moment in the spotlight. Perfect. The Century Plaza Hotel glittered like a jewel. Los Angeles' elite had turned out in force. Movie stars, tech moguls, politicians, all there to celebrate James Bennett's philanthropy and write big checks for orphan children. The irony wasn't lost on Maya. She was working the event again. Same black vest, same white shirt, same invisible waitress. Except tonight, she wasn't invisible. Tonight, she was a ghost come back to haunt a murderer. James took the stage to thunderous applause. He looked distinguished in his tuxedo, the silver at his temples catching the light just right. That practiced, humble smile. Thank you all for being here, he began. 20 years ago, I lost everything that mattered to me. My wife Elena, my beautiful daughter. In one terrible moment, my entire world ended. The crowd made sympathetic sounds. Several people wiped their eyes. But from that tragedy, James continued, his voice breaking slightly, I found purpose. I created the Tomorrow's Hope Foundation to honor their memory, to make sure other children don't suffer the way my family suffered. Every dollar you donate tonight goes directly to helping kids find safe homes, loving families, a chance at the life my daughter never got to have. The applause was deafening. Maya set down her tray. She walked toward the stage, her heart pounding but her steps steady. Excuse me, she said, her voice cutting through the applause. Mr. Bennett, may I ask you a question? The room fell silent. James looked at her with irritation. Miss, this isn't the appropriate time. Oh, I think it's the perfect time. Maya stepped onto the stage. You were just talking about your daughter, the one you lost 20 years ago, the one who died in a tragic accident. James's expression shifted. Something flickered in his eyes. Yes, well, as I said, it's a painful. Except she didn't die, Maya interrupted. Her voice was loud now. Clear. She's standing right here in front of you, Dad. You could have heard a pin drop. James stared at her, really looked at her for the first time, and Maya watched recognition dawn in his eyes, followed immediately by fear. My name is Maya Elena Torres, she said, turning to address the crowd. But 20 years ago, my name was Sophia Bennett. I was 4 years old when this man killed my mother and faked my death, so he could collect the insurance money That's insane, James stammered. Security? Is it? Maya pulled out a folder. Because I have the forged death certificates right here, and the insurance claim forms, and the hospital records showing that my mother didn't die in a car accident. She was poisoned, and before she died, she told the nurses to protect me from the monster who killed her. The crowd erupted in shocked murmurs. Phones came out. People started recording. You built your entire empire on our deaths, Maya continued, her voice shaking with emotion now. You used the tragedy you created to make yourself look like a hero. You raised millions of dollars in my name, in my mother's name, while I grew up in foster homes, thinking I was worthless, thinking nobody wanted me. James tried to speak, but no words came out. But the best part, Maya smiled through her tears. The absolute best part is that you hired me. 3 weeks ago, I served champagne at your house. I walked past you 6 times, and you never even looked at me, because people like you never see people like me. We're invisible to you. She turned to the press section. Everything is in this folder. Documents, testimony, bank records, 20 years of lies, 20 years of fraud. And here's the real kicker. The Tomorrow's Hope Foundation, only 8% of donations actually go to children. The rest finances his lifestyle, his mansions, his cars, his $5,000 suits. Angela appeared at the side of the stage with a projector remote. The screen behind James lit up with documents, bank statements, the forged death certificates, photos of Elena's hospital records. And there in the center, the childhood photo that had started all. The little girl in the pink dress, with text overlaid, "My angel, forever in my heart," found in James Bennett's private office. You kept my photo, Maya said softly, turning back to James. Like a trophy, a reminder of what you'd gotten away with. But you know what you didn't count on? You didn't count on the fact that some ghosts refused to stay buried. The sirens started outside. Through the windows, red and blue lights flashed. FBI agents began filing into ballroom. James Bennett finally found his voice. You can't prove any of this. Actually, said a woman in a dark suit, holding up a badge, she can. James Bennett, you're under arrest for insurance fraud, identity falsification, and suspicion of murder. You have the right to remain silent. As the handcuffs clicked around his wrists, James looked at Maya one last time, and in that moment, she saw it. The recognition, the regret, the understanding that he'd underestimated the daughter he'd tried to erase. I was 4 years old, Maya said quietly, just loud enough for him to hear. I was a baby, and you threw me away like garbage. But I survived, I thrived, and I came back. Not for revenge, Dad, for justice. The story exploded. Within hours, it was national news. Billionaire philanthropist arrested for daughter's murder. Dead girl comes back to expose father's fraud. The Tomorrow's Hope Foundation, a 20-year lie. Maya didn't sleep for 3 days. The interviews were endless. CNN, ABC, the New York Times. Everyone wanted to know about the waitress who brought down a billionaire. But more importantly, the investigation kept growing. The FBI froze all of James Bennett's assets. They discovered he'd been running the exact adoption fraud scheme Elena had been investigating. 19 children had been illegally adopted out. 8 families were torn apart, all for profit. Every single one of those children was located. Families were reunited. The adoption agency directors were arrested. And the foundation? The real numbers were even worse than Maya had revealed. Over 20 years, James had raised $47 million in donations. Only $3.7 million actually went to children's programs. The rest went into his pocket. The court seized everything. Every mansion, every car, every penny in every account. And then they did something unexpected. They gave it all to Maya. 6 months later, Maya sat in an office overlooking downtown Los Angeles. The nameplate on the door read, Elena Ramirez Foundation for Children's Rights. Executive Director, Maya Torres. She'd rebuilt the foundation from the ground up. Every dollar James had stolen was now being used for what he'd always claimed. Real programs, real help, real second chances. The day after the press conference, a woman had shown up at Maya's apartment. She was 50-something, with kind eyes and graying hair. "My name is Carmen," she'd said. "Carmen Ramirez. I'm your mother's sister. Your aunt. I've been looking for you for 20 years. And just like that, Maya wasn't alone anymore. Carmen had believed Sophia was dead. The death certificates were official. James had made sure of that, but she'd never stop wondering, never stop hoping. Together, they'd built something beautiful. The Elena Ramirez Foundation became the leading organization fighting adoption fraud. They'd helped reunite 73 families, provided legal aid to 200 more, changed laws, changed lives. Maya received letters every day, from kids in foster care, from families who'd been torn apart, from people who'd seen her story and found hope in it. "You prove that our past doesn't define us," one letter read. "You showed us that even when the world tries to erase you, you can still write your own story." As for James Bennett, he was sentenced to 30 years in federal prison. His lawyers had tried everything, but the evidence was overwhelming. The jury deliberated for only 2 hours. At the sentencing, Maya was allowed to give a victim impact statement. She stood in front of the court, looking at the man who tried to destroy her, and said, "You wanted me gone. You wanted me erased from history, forgotten, dead and buried with the mother you murdered. But here's what you didn't understand. You can't erase someone's existence. You can only force them to rebuild themselves. And sometimes, what they rebuild is stronger than anything that came before." She paused, letting the words sink in. "I forgive you, not because you deserve it, but because holding on to hate would mean letting you win. You don't get to occupy space in my heart anymore. You don't get that power. Instead, I'm using every resource you stole, every lie you told, every dollar you took. I'm using it all to help the children you victimized. Your legacy isn't going to be the empire you built. It's going to be the justice your crimes created." A year after James Bennett's arrest, Maya stood at the opening ceremony of the 5th Elena Ramirez Children's Home. Carmen stood beside her, holding an old photo of Elena. "Your mother would be so proud," Carmen whispered. Maya smiled. "She'd probably tell me I'm working too hard." "She definitely would." Carmen laughed. "She'd also tell you to take a vacation. Maybe next month." The children from the home came out then, singing a song they'd learned. Maya watched them, these kids who'd been abandoned or orphaned or lost in the system. Kids who now had a safe place. Adults who cared. A real chance. She thought about the little girl in that photograph. The 4-year-old in the pink dress who'd been thrown away like she didn't matter. That little girl had grown up scared, lonely, convinced she was worthless. But she'd been wrong. She mattered. She'd always mattered. And now she was making sure every other forgotten child knew they mattered too. That night, alone in her apartment, Maya opened her laptop. James had sent another letter from prison, the 15th one. She usually threw them away unread. But something made her open this one. "Sophia," it read, "I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know what I did was unforgivable. But I want you to know, I kept your photo all these years because I couldn't forget. I tried to convince myself you were better off without me, that I was doing what was necessary. But every time I looked at that photo, I knew the truth. I was a coward who chose money over his own child. You deserve better. Elena deserved better. I'm sorry. I know it means nothing, but I'm sorry." Maya read it twice. Then she closed her laptop. Maybe one day she'd write back. Maybe one day she'd visit him in prison and try to understand a man who destroyed their family. But not today. Today, she had 89 kids who needed school supplies ordered. grant applications to review, a meeting with the governor about child welfare reform. She had work to do, and for the first time in her life, Maya Torres, Sophia Bennett, knew exactly who she was and what she was meant to do. The email came on a Tuesday morning. Subject line: "Thank you for saving my life." Maya almost deleted it. She got dozens of these a week. But something made her click. "Dear Ms. Torres, you don't know me, but you changed my life. 3 years ago, I was in foster care. I'd been there since I was 6. I was about to age out of the system with nowhere to go. Then the Elena Ramirez Foundation gave me a scholarship. You paid for my college. All 4 years. I graduated last month with a degree in social work. I got a job at Child Protective Services. And this morning, I helped reunite a mother with her daughter after 2 years apart. I thought you should know, your pain didn't just heal you. It's healing all of us. Thank you for refusing to stay buried. Thank you for coming back. Thank you for showing us that our stories aren't over until we say they are." Maya read the email 3 times, tears streaming down her face. This was why it all mattered. Not the revenge, not the justice, not even the money or the awards or the recognition. It was this: one person helping another, a chain of healing that stretched from Elena to Sophia to Maya to this young social worker and beyond. Her mother had started it 23 years ago, fighting for children's rights. James had tried to end it with murder and lies. But Maya had kept it going, and it would keep spreading. One child at a time, one family at a time, one healed heart at a time. So here's what I want you to take away from this story. It's not really about a daughter finding her father, or revenge, or even justice, though that's part of it. It's about something bigger. It's about the fact that we are not defined by what's done to us. We're defined by what we do next. Maya Torres could have lived her entire life never knowing the truth. She could have stayed invisible, safe, unknown, but she made a different choice. She chose to seek truth, even when it was dangerous. She chose to stand up, even when everyone said to stay quiet. She chose to transform her pain into purpose. And in doing so, she didn't just save herself. She saved hundreds of others. That's the real power of resilience. Not just surviving your own storm, but becoming the lighthouse that guides others through theirs. James Bennett tried to erase his daughter from existence. Instead, he created a force of nature that would outlive them both. Because here's the truth that people like James will never understand. You can't erase someone's value by refusing to see it. You can only reveal your own blindness. And sometimes, just sometimes, the person you underestimate becomes the one who changes everything. Maya Torres didn't just come back from the dead. She came back as something James Bennett never expected. She came back as hope. If this story moved you, if it made you think about the power we all have to transform pain into purpose, then share it. Subscribe. Let it remind you that your story isn't over until you say it is. Because somewhere out there, there's someone who needs to hear that they matter, that they're not invisible, that their pain has purpose. Be the person who tells them. Be the person who sees them. Be the Maya Torres in someone else's story. Thank you for listening. And remember, the most powerful thing you can do is refuse to let the world define who you are. You get to write your own ending. Make it count. If this story moved you, hit like and subscribe. Share it with someone who needs to hear that they matter. Drop a comment. What would you have done in Maya's position? Your story isn't over until you say it is. See you in the next one.